For the past 70 years, fighter jets have been the ultimate symbol of air superiority. The F-22 Raptor, the F-35 Lightning II. These are incredible machines, packed with stealth technology and weapon systems that cost upwards of $80 million per aircraft. They're engineering marvels. But here's the brutal reality. They're expensive, they take years to build, and we don't have nearly enough of them. Meanwhile, China's churning out fighters faster than anyone can count. Russia's still fielding advanced aircraft, and the nature of modern air combat has fundamentally shifted. It's not just about having the best individual jet anymore. It's about who can flood the battle space with capable platforms, overwhelm enemy defenses, and come out ahead without bankrupting the defense budget or losing pilots. So the Air Force started asking a radical question. What if you could send jets into the most dangerous combat zones without risking a single pilot's life? What if those jets could think for themselves, coordinate with manned aircraft, and cost a fraction of traditional fighters? And what if losing one in battle didn't mean a grieving family back home, or years of training gone in an instant? Before we go any further, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. What's coming next is going to blow your mind, and you're not going to want to miss a single detail. That radical question led to the Collaborative Combat Aircraft Program, CCA for short. These aren't your typical drones. The Air Force is building an entire fleet of at least 1,000 AI-driven, semi-autonomous wingmen designed to fly in perfect coordination with F-35s, F-22s, and the upcoming sixth-generation F-47. They are the ultimate loyal wingman. They never get tired, they never hesitate, they never second-guess a command, and they can take risks that no human pilot ever should. These CCAs will handle everything from precision strikes to reconnaissance missions. They'll conduct electronic warfare, jam enemy communications, and even act as decoys to draw fire away from our manned jets. And here's what makes this truly revolutionary. They're affordable enough that losing several in combat won't cripple the defense budget or ground the entire fleet. Now, you might be wondering who's actually building these things. The Air Force didn't just award this to one contractor and walk away. They went with serious competition. In April 2024, two major defense companies got the first contracts, Anduril and General Atomics. Both had the same mission: build a production-ready prototype and get it flying. Fast. General Atomics had a head start. They adapted their design from the XQ-67A, a drone they'd already developed for the off-board sensing station program. Anduril took a different approach. They started with their Fury drone, a platform they'd acquired when they bought Blue Force Technologies back in 2023, and began iterating from there. But both companies knew something the public didn't. They weren't just racing each other. There was a third competitor watching from the sidelines. A company with deep pockets, decades of stealth experience, and a track record of building some of the most advanced aircraft ever to fly. Northrop Grumman, the company behind the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber and the B-21 Raider. In December 2024, they unveiled Project Talon, and the Air Force was impressed enough to give it an official military designation, the YFQ-48A. That Y prefix means it's still in the prototype phase, but make no mistake about what just happened. Northrop Grumman just crashed the party as the third major player in this race. What's absolutely wild is the timeline. Talon went from initial concept to flight-ready aircraft in less than 2 years. Northrop used something called the Beacon Autonomous Testbed Ecosystem, which allowed them to test avionics and software in real-world conditions while the actual aircraft was still being built. It's the kind of parallel development that cuts months or even years off traditional timelines. And they didn't just dust off an old proposal. Reports indicate that Talon is significantly lighter than their earlier design, uses fewer parts, and can be manufactured way faster. Northrop looked at what the Air Force actually needed: affordable, scalable, combat-ready platforms. and essentially rebuilt everything from the ground up. So now we've got three competitors, three prototype drones, and the clock's ticking. August 2025, Edwards Air Force Base, California. General Atomics rolls out the YFQ-42A for its maiden flight, and it flies beautifully. Smooth, stable, everything they promise. Air Force Secretary Troy Mink called it proof that innovative acquisition meets motivated industry. In record time, CCA went from an ambitious concept to physical reality. But one successful flight doesn't win a multi-billion-dollar production contract. Anduril was still working on their prototype, and they weren't trying to simply match General Atomics. They were going for something much bigger, something that would fundamentally change how we think about autonomous flight. October 31st, 2025, an undisclosed location somewhere in California, Anduril's YFQ-44A takes off for the first time. But here's what made this flight fundamentally different from every other first flight in aviation history. It wasn't remotely piloted. It was genuinely semi-autonomous from the moment it started rolling down the runway. Most companies ease into autonomy. They fly the drone manually first, work out all the bugs, then gradually hand over control to the software. Not Anduril. Jason Levin, their senior vice president of engineering, put it bluntly: there is no operator with a stick and throttle flying the aircraft behind the scenes. Every single taxi test, every flight, fully autonomous from day one. That's an incredibly gutsy move. It took them longer to get airborne than General Atomics. But Anduril's making a calculated bet that by perfecting the autonomy software early in the development process, they'll move through flight testing faster and deliver a more capable final product. From clean sheet design to active flight testing, 556 days, less than 2 years. If this is blowing your mind right now, you absolutely need to subscribe. We're covering every single breakthrough in military aviation technology, and this is just the beginning. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss a thing. All right, let's talk about real capability, because flying in a straight line is one thing. Actually fighting and winning in combat, that's something else entirely. These CCAs aren't just going to fly in pretty formation and look intimidating. They're being designed to handle missions that would normally require multiple manned aircraft, or missions so incredibly dangerous you'd never want to risk a human pilot. Air-to-air combat against enemy fighters? Absolutely. Striking hardened ground targets deep in contested territory? That's the plan. Jamming enemy communications and radar systems? You got it. Acting as decoys to absorb incoming surface-to-air missiles, while the F-35 behind them stays safe and completes the mission? That's literally the entire point. The Air Force is conducting extensive testing at Edwards Air Force Base and Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada, home to the Experimental Operations Unit. That's where they're refining the actual tactics. How do you fight with these things? Do they fly ahead of the manned jets as scouts, beside them as protective escorts? How much autonomy do you give them when missiles are flying and decisions need to happen in milliseconds? And there's another critical layer to all of this. The Air Force isn't just thinking about today's conflicts. They're planning for the next generation of air combat with the F-47, America's sixth-generation air superiority platform. That jet's still deep in development, but it's being designed from day one to command multiple CCAs simultaneously. One human pilot, multiple autonomous drones, overwhelming coordinated firepower. Here's the ultimate endgame. The Air Force wants at least 1,000 of these drones deployed, probably more, and they want them affordable enough that they can actually build, maintain, and deploy that many without Congress shutting down the entire program over budget concerns. Traditional fighter jets? You lose one F-35 in combat, that's $80 million gone in an instant. A highly trained pilot potentially killed or captured, Months or years of planning and resources to recover from that single loss. But a CCA, if it gets shot down, yes, it's a loss. But it's a manageable, acceptable loss. You build another one. You send it back up. The mission continues without catastrophic consequences. This is what scalable warfare looks like. It's about numbers, flexibility, and overwhelming the enemy's ability to respond effectively. China might have more total fighters on paper, but can they effectively counter 1,000 semi-autonomous drones working in perfect coordination with America's most skilled pilots and advanced aircraft? That's the strategic bet. Northrop Grumman's Talon is officially in the running now with its military designation, and the Air Force has publicly stated they're keeping the door wide open for additional companies, dark horse competitors, firms we haven't even heard about yet. That's completely intentional. The Air Force learned some expensive lessons from past acquisition programs about what happens when you lock in one vendor too early and lose all your leverage. Keep everyone competing hard for the contract, and you get better designs, lower costs, and faster delivery timelines. But time's running out fast. The production decision is expected sometime this fiscal year, 2026, and there's an enormous amount riding on this decision. Billions of dollars in defense contracts, the entire future of American air combat doctrine, our technological edge over China and Russia in the Pacific and beyond. So who actually wins this thing? General Atomics with their proven flight record and steady approach? Anduril with their bold autonomy-first philosophy and rapid innovation? Or does Northrop Grumman leverage decades of stealth expertise and a reputation for delivering game-changing aircraft to sweep in and take the whole contract? The honest truth is, we don't know yet. What we do know for certain is that all three companies just accomplished something the defense industry spent decades claiming was impossible. They designed, built, and successfully flew advanced autonomous combat aircraft in under 2 years. That's not normal. That's not incremental improvement. That's a fundamental paradigm shift in how America develops and fields weapon systems. And it's not just about the United States. Northrop Grumman's already publicly discussing international sales opportunities. Allied nations want access to this technology. Australia, Japan, South Korea, countries facing the exact same threats, the same budget constraints, the same desperate need for scalable air power that doesn't require decades of pilot training and hundreds of millions per platform. The CCA program isn't just building a new type of drone, it's literally rewriting the fundamental rules of modern warfare. Let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger strategic picture. Why does any of this actually matter? Because air superiority has been America's absolute ace in the hole for nearly 80 years. We've dominated the skies since World War II. That dominance gave us the freedom to project power anywhere on the planet, support ground forces without fear, and deter adversaries from even trying to challenge us. But that dominance is slipping away, fast. China's fielding the J-20 stealth fighter in significant numbers. Russia's developing the Su-57 and exporting advanced air defense systems worldwide. Both countries are pouring billions into their own drone programs and autonomous weapons development. If America doesn't move quickly and decisively, we lose the edge that's kept us safe for generations. The CCA program is the response to that existential threat. It's agile, it's affordable, and it's specifically designed to overwhelm any potential adversary through sheer numbers and seamless coordination. One F-35 pilot backed by 4 CCAs becomes an entire 5-aircraft strike package. One F-47 commanding 10 CCAs becomes a full squadron's worth of combat power, all directed by a single human decision-maker. But increasing autonomy raises some very serious questions. Big, uncomfortable questions that we need to address before these systems see real combat. What happens when an AI-driven drone has to make a life-or-death targeting decision in microseconds? Who's legally and morally responsible when something goes wrong? How much control do you give the machine, and how much absolutely must stay with the human operator? Here's the critical thing to understand. These drones are semi-autonomous, not fully autonomous. There's always a human in the decision loop. The pilot flying the F-35 or F-22 retains ultimate command authority. The CCAs receive orders, execute complex missions, and adapt to rapidly changing battlefield conditions. But they don't independently decide to go to war. They don't select targets on their own initiative. That authority remains exclusively with humans. The Air Force is being extremely smart and deliberate about this development process. They're developing the autonomy software in parallel with the physical aircraft, conducting extensive testing, constantly refining the tactics and procedures. By the time these drones actually deploy in real combat operations, the pilots flying alongside them will have spent years training on how to effectively command them, when to trust them, and how to seamlessly integrate them into the most complex missions imaginable. This isn't about replacing human pilots. It's about making them exponentially more effective, giving them tools that extend their reach across vast distances, multiply their firepower, and most importantly, keep them safer in the most dangerous environments on Earth. So do you think autonomous wingmen represent the inevitable future of air combat? Or are we moving too fast into uncharted and potentially dangerous territory? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this deep dive valuable, hit that subscribe button right now. We've got a ton more content coming on next-generation military technology, advanced weapon systems, and the future of warfare. You're not going to want to miss any of it. Oh, and before you go anywhere, check out our previous video ranking the top 5 fighter jets in 2026. We break down all the capabilities, and the #1 spot might genuinely surprise you. The link's right there in the description. Go watch it now.